Hello and welcome to the Reetin Entertainment Podcast, episode 446 for April 7th, 2024. My name is Nathan Reetin Spruth, and join me this week, we have Andrew Rowe McFain.
I'm here this time.
Yeah, are you and Connor, fighting now? Because I can't get both of you on the same podcast.
Yeah, that's weird because he said he even had something he wanted to ask me about. And
Interesting. I think, so we have a game that we play after, well, sometimes, that we play after this podcast, and that was canceled. I'm thinking that it's possible because that was canceled, he decided to go do something else. That's the only thing I could think
take a
of.
nap.
Yeah, I mean that's also highly likely. I love taking naps. I of course am your host Nathan Reetin Spruth, and I have a question for you, Aroa. Where can we find you?
You can go to Aroa.website and you get a bunch of links. And you go on all the links, and there's the links to you got the Bug City Blues, that's Connor's podcast with the Shadowrun
Yep.
actual play. Um,
It's amazing
then
to
you got
me. It's amazing to me that he keeps creating bots to join my server.
yeah,
That's
isn't it? They're
damn it.
even like high quality like GPT-4 bots
Yeah.
with how realistically they respond.
That would be funny if that was actually happening, but unfortunately, it's just actual people listening to that podcast and not my podcast, which is very sad.
Yeah, he gets a lot. He gets a lot of listeners. I've looked at the stats.
I've looked. I can't. I'm not I'm not
No, you're not allowed.
allowed to look at those stats because I went to go look at them for something, which I might if there's a time when they ask because my email is going to be listed as the one that they email to talk to for press stuff. So if
Yeah.
a sponsor ends up messaging us on Bug City Blues, then I'll probably have to ask for permission to see those analytics because they want those for sponsorship stuff.
Well, yeah.
So, anywho, I'm Nathan Reetin. You can find me Reetin everywhere. Reetin. I'm Reetin on Twitch, and that's the main one, 6 p.m. Pacific time to 9 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/Reetin. I did find out something. So I'm not gonna list. Not gonna name their name because I don't want to dox them or share any of their personal info. But one of my viewers' ex-wives has a recurring subscription to me. I looked it up because you can download your subscriber list, and I was like, I wonder because my number hasn't gone down yet. And apparently, when she signed up as a recurring subscription. So I'm just not gonna say anything and hope that she forgets, and I just have that one free sub. But yeah, so that's pretty great. And yeah, so we are. What games have you played this week? What games have you played this week?
Oh, sorry. I got my headset connected to my phone and it made a loud noise right
I have a
whenever you
cat
talk.
who keeps jumping on my desk.
Oh, I have a cat that won't stay off my lap, so we're close.
Yeah.
Uh, I have been playing so very much Balatro.
I've
Um,
seen that, but I didn't know what that was
I didn't
exactly.
either until the beginning of this week. I I don't remember what I was reading or watching, but it essentially explained what the hell Balatro was, and it's essentially a video poker roguelike. Um, and so like if you you know me, uh my one of my many vices is video poker.
Is it?
Uh Yeah, to the
I
point that I've spent many hours reading about strategy in video poker and, like, memorizing probability tables,
do you
for
do
various
you
hands.
do you like go to the arcades and or casinos and play video poker, or is it just like a video
Uh,
game thing
I
that you tend to play on your
I
computer?
would go to the casino if I really wanted to. Thankfully, my social anxiety keeps me from doing that.
Oh, I see.
Um, but instead, yeah, I will go through short spans of time where for, like, a few days or a week or a couple weeks, just depends, I will almost obsessively play video poker on my phone or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, it's great. I don't know why it's so satisfying. Um, now Balatro is not explicitly, like, just standard video poker with, like, a few bonus elements, like, it's, they call it a deck builder roguelite. I don't I guess kind of. It has a lot more in common with, Luck Be a Landlord, which is sort of a similar idea, but with a slot machine. Like, the idea is to take whatever upgrades that you come across as you're playing and try to change your strategy based on what upgrades you're finding rather than necessarily choosing upgrades based on your strategy,
I see.
because you just don't get that many choices.
Oh, okay.
It's very difficult. Your goal is, I believe, to get to, uh, ante 8, which is basically just the 8th stage. Um, 'Cause, each stage is a small blind, big blind, and then the boss blind, and the boss blind always has some kind of gimmick. Like, one of them is, you have to every hand that you play has to have 5 cards, or another one is, like, all club cards don't count for anything,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
that kinda stuff. Uh, so, like, there's a lot of little nuances here and there. It's just is a very solid game. It's got a really nice presentation. It's just all around fantastic. Uh, yeah, that's like what I've spent almost all of my time on. Um, I would like to play Content Warning, but uh, you need multiple people for that
Yeah, I tried to get a
same
group.
time.
I tried to get a group, but none of my friends wanted to play games on Friday. So I just ended
I
up
noticed
playing a
that.
different game, which we will talk about. Did you play anything else other than that?
Um, no.
No, that's it. Okay. So the games I played was I played some WWE 2K24 and I went through they have their like career mode is My Rise, which is I guess the same in all of the 2K games. So like NBA 2K and I can't name any other 2K games.
I don't
uh
know if any others exist anymore.
maybe. So they have the My Rise, which is it's the career mode. And I chose the first career mode, the one on the left. And apparently that was the female career mode. So they have a female career mode and a male career mode, which are different. So I'm going through that, and it's okay, but like sometimes it's cool. Back in the day, back in the PS2 days, when you would like play through Here Comes the Pain or any of those games, and there would be some like voice acting from the wrestlers. I was always like, yeah, this is cool. And now I'm like, man, they need voice acting lessons because they're like trying to like build up drama, and they're just giving really bad monotone line delivery, and I'm
Have
just
you
like, come on, guys, you do this for
have
a
you seen
living.
those clips from NBA 2K's My Rise mode with the basketball players doing voiceover? And it's like It's like worse than commercial line reading
That's
of like sports stars. It's like, yo man, you gotta learn how to share the ball out on the court. You think that you're a one man band, but it's all the team. Like it's
that's good. I like it. I like it. It's great. I'm not. It's probably one of the best WWE games, but hopefully that's how it goes. Is the next one is always better than the last. But it's. I noticed that the gameplay's a little snappier than it was in previous games, and the story hopefully is better because the last couple stories kind of sucked. They also had the showcase mode for like Cody Rhodes, which is pretty cool. Where I love how all WWE games now are FMV games because they show like bits of the match, but they also have like the actual wrestlers there in like a studio setting, like setting up the matches, like sitting there and being like, and when I was going into this match, this is what I was thinking. And that's always pretty great. I love FMV games.
I think that's actually cool.
Yeah. And they even talked about like this year was Cody Rhodes. And I guess they go through like a lot of Cody Rhodes matches, but I this year at WrestleMania he is facing Roman Reigns, and that is in the game, even though it hasn't happened yet. So hopefully he wins. Who knows? I haven't played through the showcase mode, but I did play some more Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and not much to say about that game. It's still pretty awesome. I played it for 60 hours so far.
That's a lot.
It's a long game. It's a long game. And one thing I do like about it, and that I've been meaning to mention, but I haven't remembered until now to mention in the podcast, is you ever play what's that game? Earthbound?
Mhm.
So Earthbound has a mechanic where if you get to a certain level and then you're in an area that's too low of a level for you, it'll like zoom in like you're gonna get into a fight and then just be like, and you got experience points. And Infinite Wealth does that kind of. If a blue enemy, like they have little marks over the head, there's like blue, red, etc., etc., etc. If a blue enemy runs up to you and tries to fight you, you press the left trigger, and it'll just skip the fight and award you experience points and items. And I love that. So it doesn't waste your time doing pointless battles.
Yeah, I think that's starting to become a bit of a trend, which
That's good.
is cool. That might actually like stand a chance at making me want to play JRPGs because
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
like the worst thing for me.
you still have to grind and stuff and get higher levels, but it makes it at least that a little bit better. And so
Yeah,
I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think I'm on chapter 9 or 10. So I still got a ways to go, I think. But it's a really fun time. I really like the characters. As I said before, I can see why Earl really likes this game series, even though all of the other games are fully in Japanese, which is fine. Like if I'm playing a game by myself, I'm totally fine playing it in Japanese. But when I'm playing it on stream, I kind of want it to be English so that I don't want to have to rely on the reader or the viewers
there
or viewer
there are
to.
English dubs in most of the recent ones.
Are they? Well, yeah, the recent ones, but like I'm talking about the old ones, like for the PS2 and stuff. A lot
Oh
of those
yeah,
games.
yeah.
Yeah. So going back and playing those would just be a little bit more difficult. And also, I'm not great at voice acting, but I don't try. So
Don't you
I am better at voice
uh,
acting than a lot of the professional wrestlers, though.
is uh does Kiwami have
I don't know. I haven't played Kiwami.
'cause that's just a remake of the first Yakuza.
I
So
believe
like
so. Yeah.
yeah, so you could do that.
Yeah, I could try that at some point. I
Zero
think
and Kiwami and Kiwami 2.
I think I am going to take a break
Play a different
from
game.
Yakuza after I'm done beating this one. Uh, then on Friday, because I could not get any, I was like, okay, we can play Helldivers, we can play Content Warning, and everyone's like, no. Like, oh, okay. And so I played Kenshi, and that game
Yeah,
is,
how'd that go?
it was fine. It was fine. I did die once. But I had saved, so I reloaded my save. And I started like just the basic default, like this is what you're supposed to do if you've never played the game before. And so, I built a little shack out in the woods, and some stupid like paladin Knight Templar people came up while I was in the town that was nearby, like selling goods. And so they went to and like broke down my door and stuff. I'm like, what the hell, guys? And I went out there and they just like went into my house and didn't do anything. They just stood around.
Yeah, they're
And
probably looking for you.
yeah, and so I ran down there and I was like gonna talk to their leader or something because it does have the bubble to actually talk to them. And then they all started attacking me, so I ran away and ran into town.
Yeah, you don't really want to talk to them very often.
No, and so I run back into town, and the townspeople ended up killing him. I just like Benny Hilled them throughout the town a bunch, but I had gotten hit a few times, so I'm like, oh man, I'm injured. And the one trader who had bandages in the town was away from their post, and so I was like, okay, well I can't wrap my head up, so I'm gonna go and take a nap, which does heal you apparently. If you have a giant head wound, just go take a nap, and that'll start healing you. It's great. So I got up. I was at like negative. Well, you can get down to like negative whatever your HP is. So I was at like negative 3 or 4, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to take a nap. And I got healed up just from napping to about like 15. And I was like, okay, great. Now I'm going to leave this bed and start stealing all the night stuff so I can sell it. Because all their bodies were just laying around town. So I was just stealing a bunch of their stuff and then selling it to the trader. Well,
I'm surprised that they let you do. Oh, they didn't, did they?
They did. They did let me do that.
Okay.
Because it was the Knights Templar. It wasn't the town was not associated with them. So they didn't give a shit.
Well, no, sometimes they'll be like, don't you fucking touch that body. I killed that guy. That's my stuff. So
yeah, apparently that was fine. I did that. I made a bunch of money. But what happened was after I woke up and I started like looting corpses, and then my guy just fell over. So it turns out the head wound didn't heal. Like it healed a little bit, but not enough to actually like stop the bleeding. And so I just fell over and died. And so I reloaded my save and went to the trader and got bandages and healed myself before I went and started looting corpses. And that's
you straight just fell over dead?
Not fell over dead, went unconscious.
Okay. I was going to say, usually you go into a healing coma before you die.
Yeah, I didn't go into the healing part of that. I just went into a coma. And then like people were walking by me and I'm like, save me. And they're like, nah, I'm good. And so I ended up dying. So it was definitely a game. The reason I played that was because one of my viewers suggested it and it was on sale for under $10. So I figured, why not give it a shake? And it's all right. I may play it again. It is an isometric game. Also, at the very beginning of the game, don't try fighting anybody.
No.
Figure that out. Yeah. Just stay away from people.
I've not spent a ton of time in that game, but I've spent enough time in it to know kind of the general idea.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's a very difficult game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't having a ton of difficulty, but if I want like I want to go and like explore and find a different town, but that's going to take a bit for me to like get provisions and stuff. But
yeah, that's what I mean. Is like it's if you want to do anything other than subsist, like you're gonna have a rough time of it.
Yeah, and don't talk to the Knights Templar because they're jerks, giant jerks. Anywho's, we're gonna move on and we're gonna talk about some news stories. The first remember years ago, I remember I was still working at my first IT job, like my first major IT job, before I went to Sony, that they were like unveiled this tech and they're like, we're gonna have it in all of our Amazon locations, where Amazon had like their just walk out technology.
Oh yeah, all the products were just like covered in QR codes and shit.
Yeah, and then the idea was there are like a billion cameras all over the store, which I didn't realize it was a camera thing. I thought it was like, I don't know, some sort of scan, like some different type of scanning thing, but it makes sense when it's going to be actual cameras. But yeah, the idea was that you would just go and grab the items and put them in your bag and then leave. And if you like took the item and you put it back on the shelf, it would count that, it would like take that out of your cart. Apparently it doesn't work. Not at all. Amazon's sales pitch, this is from Ars Technica. It said, what if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI in the very fabric of the store so you never have to wait in line? The store was filled with 100 plus cameras and rigid item locations, all designed to try to make AI-powered computer vision checkout possible. Yeah, it didn't work. So the idea, they hired a bunch of people in India,
Yeah.
and we're like, we're gonna, we're hoping that we can get it down to about 20 to 50 human interactions per 1,000 sales. So, you have 1,000 sales, then you have like one person reviewing 50 of those sales just to make sure everything was working well. They were not able to do that, and they required 700 human reviews per 1,000 sales, which is a lot more than 20.
Yeah, you might as well just have a checkout person at that point.
Yeah, you have 70% of your sales are being like tracked wrong. Now, I don't know why they don't just like, I mean, you could have a tech similar to that, like you just like scan like your
Oh,
like
you mean like you walk up to like a kiosk or something and you just like scan your own products and put them in the basket?
well, yes, but I meant with your phone. Just like walk up to the thing and then like on the Amazon app just be like beep and then put it in your cart.
Oh, you mean like the Walmart thing?
Is that I have no idea.
Yeah, Walmart.
Did are you,
Fuck, I think
you
it was
okay?
pre-pandemic.
Oh,
Walmart had a thing where you could either use your phone, or they even had like these, I think they were basically like those Zebra devices, the Android devices with a scanner on it. And you could just walk around the store and scan shit as you were getting it. And then once you got up to the front, you just put in your payment info and walked out.
that's interesting. Does it still work? Do they still do it, or did they cancel that?
I th- I think they got rid of it because of shoplifting.
I would imagine yes. I would imagine that's what would probably, and I imagine that's what happened with the Amazon stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I do wonder, like, there's got to be there's got to be an actual way to do this. Um,
Um,
I would. My thought
I,
is have the baskets, like you pick up a basket when you go into the store, and then that has some sort of code like on the rim, where or like some like QR thing on the rim where you like put the item in and it scans it when you put it in the basket.
I
That,
I
but
guess you'd have to do like how at the self checkouts, if you put something into a bag without scanning it, then it'll go uh remove a foreign object from the item area or whatever.
I hate that so. I never use self checkout at
Yeah.
the Safeway here because I always forget a bag. And in Oregon we can't use like plastic bags anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'll like take one of their bags and place it in there, and they're like, remove foreign object. I'm like, it's your fucking bag. So I just
Yeah,
always, there's always one person at checkout, and I just go to that person, and I'm like, here, man, I don't care. Um,
that's what I was gonna get at was like inevitably you're going to have these carts just constantly screaming at the customers, going, "Nah, you put something in without scanning it."
Yeah.
They're like, "No, I just rearranged it." What'd you do? You did something wrong.
Yeah, and it says here from Ars Technica, according to the information report, the walkout tech was deployed at 20 Amazon Go stores, 40 Amazon Fresh grocery stores, and 2 Whole Foods stores. It had even gotten some third-party outlets on board, including 30 stores operated by other companies in the U.S. sports stadiums, 12 airports, and one in the University of Arlington, Virginia. And they're going to be basically going and ripping out all of the cameras and just turning it into a normal store. I wonder, probably with self-checkout, let's be fair.
Yeah. I do think that this is possible in like a sci-fi grade world where every product can have some kind of embedded tracking chip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
apparently
I really
it was not very good for produce.
no, I would imagine it wouldn't be. Because
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's the thing is you'd need like all produce to be pre-bagged,
Mm-hmm.
and the bags would have to have some kind of the only thing I can think to do it that would be feasible would be like Bluetooth LE chips.
Yeah.
So and those you're looking at, even on the cheaper end, you're looking at $2 or $3 for per item.
Yeah.
So like you'd have to you'd have to do something where like customers wouldn't be able to just take them home. Like you'd have to have them like rip off all the tags as they're walking out the store, and that's not going to work.
So
Like,
they actually say in the article in Ars Technica what they're doing. It says Amazon will be switching to a more reasonable cashierless format. Shopping carts with built-in checkout screens and scanners. Customers
oh,
can
so
leisurely
literally what you just
Yeah. Customers can leisurely scan. I read the beginning part of the story, but I didn't scroll all the way down before I posted the story. But it says customers can leisurely scan items as they throw them in the cart, and the screen will let them instantly see a running total of their purchases. The cart scanners are also mean that Amazon no longer needs a small army of store employees to constantly tidy up the shelves, so the camera vision system can work. That was a big part of it, is like the shelves had to
oh
be
yeah,
like
everything has to
perfect.
start out in the same place.
Yeah. So yes, they will be doing exactly what I said, except for mine was like it automatically scans, but this, I guess, you scan it yourself as you put it in the cart, which
Yeah, it's just the Walmart thing from before, but the tablet is just embedded in the
yeah.
handle of the cart.
I mean, I don't have an Amazon Go or any of those other stores near me. I would think you would have more of a chance of finding one of those stores than I would. I guess,
Maybe in Chicago.
yeah, 40 Amazon Fresh grocery stores. You don't have an Amazon Fresh grocery store near you?
No, we've got there's a Whole Foods like 45 minutes away, but that's about it.
Yeah, and it was only put into 2 Whole Foods stores.
Yeah. Though
Uh,
I would imagine that this like self-scanning thing has a lot more of a chance.
I would imagine too that, I mean, I'm still seeing that there's probably going to be shoplifting, but it's
Yeah.
probably going to be better than what they were doing, and having to pay, an army of people to watch over it every day is probably going to like take their costs down quite a bit. Anyway, that's the update. Our future is going back to the past because they couldn't get it working, which is just what happens. You've seen it so many times in the past where they're like, "We're gonna do it," and they're like, "We can't do it." Oh, okay. Well, let's revert back to what we were doing before, and we are gonna move on to our next story, which is something I have been thinking about for a while. Is that apparently there was a study done mainly on like elite athletes, but they're also talking about like professional gamers and stuff. Um, it appears some people may be able to see in higher frames per second. Like our eyes have a higher frame rate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um,
I've heard
and
about a phenomenon where that happens like temporarily whenever you get like whenever your fight or flight kicks in.
Yeah, like I could see that. And that would explain why a lot of times people think that like when they're getting attacked or like a car accident happens, like things happen in slow motion.
Yeah. Yep.
Um
That was what I was thinking of. 'Cause I remember like shit, maybe even 10 years ago reading an article that was like trying to talk to veterans about that exact phenomenon of like seeing things happening in slow motion.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just like the thing in movies where like whenever a human is under like a huge amount of stress, where time slows down, that seems to actually be a thing. It's just that your perception is kicked to such a high degree that that everything else is going slower than your brain.
Yeah, and it appears that like people some people just have that. Like they just have like maybe it's not like everything's in slow motion, but they just see at a higher frame rate, which I can kind of attest to. And I think I have trained myself. Go away, kitty. I kind of have trained myself to see in a slightly higher frame rate than I would have 10 years ago. And that's because like watching YouTube videos, I've spoken about it before. Watching 24 frames per second YouTube videos
Mm,
kills me. I just
yeah.
can't do it. And like I'll be watching a video or something and it'll be on and it'll like pan and I'll tell my girlfriend, I'll be like, look at this. See, this is ridiculous. And she doesn't notice it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it might have been like 10 years ago, before I played, you know, maybe like 15, 16 years ago, before I like started playing like higher FPS games that, uh, I wouldn't have noticed that. And I think just I've trained my brain to see, like, I can tell if something's 24 frames a second thing like especially in YouTube videos, things seem off if it's at 30 frames a second, but it's less noticeable to me. But I'm still like, this seems a little slow. And I'll check the stats for nerds and I'll see that it's running at 30 frames a second. I'm like, yeah, that seems. And so, you know, after 60 frames a second, I can't really notice that much. But I can see that, like, if you're a professional athlete, you know, professional athletes do, you know, they have a lower heart rate a lot of the time because they're exercising a lot more. Um, and I would imagine if you're sitting there and you're actually focusing on like having as fast of a reaction time as possible, that could probably make it so that you actually see faster as well. They're able to
Uh,
like
uh,
focus that adrenaline to work on their eyes.
and I have even had the experience of 'cause I imagine that this is similar to people who are more sensitive to input latency than others.
Yeah.
Because that's always been a thing with me. Like, I can't play a game with vertical sync turned on most of the time because the input lag is so immediately obvious to me that it actually makes it more difficult for me to play the game.
John's
And,
that way too, right?
uh,
Your friend John?
probably.
Because
Yeah, 'cause I mean, he was a pro grade Halo player, so I would imagine that he's got that same kinda thing.
yeah.
'Cause I imagine that mine comes from rhythm gaming, and, but, like, I know that it's different for me than other people because my other friend Alfredo, I remember on multiple occasions, I've been like, "Is vertical sync on?" He's like, "What do you" "Maybe, I don't know, why?" I was like, "It's just like, when I move the mouse, it's like the cursor is moving through water, like, it's so slow to respond."
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, I checked the settings, and it's like he had no idea that that was happening at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there are some like I don't really notice if VSync is on, um, but I could see that other people having that issue because you know I've definitely played games where I'm like something feels off, and it's not usually VSync or something, but I'm just like this feels not great. Like it doesn't feel good to play this game,
yeah.
and
And,
other people might not notice it.
and Katie, whenever we were still, like, just dating, she did not notice. the difference between 30 and 60 FPS. And now she does because I've pointed it out so many times over the years. So I think it may also just be that, like, whenever you're doing something that requires that degree of focus, it's just easier for your brain to be able to pick up on every tiny little variation
Well, and
that's happening in that moment.
she probably has the same thing that I did, where I played a lot of games on consoles, and console games oftentimes, like, there are a lot of console games that play at 60 frames a
Yeah,
second, but
that's fair, yeah.
but most of them are at 30 frames a second.
Yeah.
Or like you look at GoldenEye, which ran at like 15 frames a second, and then if you did multiplayer, it would literally drop down to like 8 frames a second, and we were just cool with it. No, you go back to playing like those games, and you're like, man, this runs like butt. But like, back in the day, you didn't notice. And so I
Yeah.
would like, and I remember it was when I worked my first IT job, I had messaged you and I was like, I really can't see the difference between 30 and 60 frames a second. And he showed me a video and I was like, I can see a little bit of difference. But now I'm like, I can definitely see a difference. And I think it's just from playing video games at higher frame rates, you end up getting
Yeah.
used to it. And that's, again, probably what's happening here is like people who are like professional athletes have just trained themselves to be able to see faster than other people. And the article from The Guardian goes in, they talk about like tennis. Apparently that's a big thing. I have never played tennis. Have you ever played tennis?
Unsuccessfully. I'm better at badminton than I am tennis.
Nice. I like table tennis, ping pong, but
I'm
like,
awful at table tennis.
oh, I'm
Absolutely
terrible.
abysmally terrible.
I'm
Yeah.
terrible at it, but like if there's a ping pong table and somebody wants to play ping pong with me, I'll do it. Like,
No,
I'll just like, cool, yeah, we're gonna play it. It's fun.
never been able to comprehend how to hit the ball without hitting it like 10 times harder than I should.
Oh yeah, you need to like have finesse or
Yeah,
whatnot.
my brain don't have that. I can only whack. That's about it.
Yeah, I think the only Olympic sport that I've ever actually sat down and watched was for some reason at like 2 a.m. they were airing the table tennis competition because nobody was gonna watch it except for me, and those people are insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to move on to our last story, and our last story is about how many people are playing what video games, and they're all playing old games, apparently.
Go figure.
This is from Rock Paper Shotgun, but there were some like Kotaku and stuff did some information on this as well. Of all the game time that gamers spent gaming in quantifiable big year of gaming 2023, just 20% of that time was gamed on games other than 66 specific games mentioned in the article. That is a bad sentence.
They did it on purpose.
Oh, I know.
And I respect them for it.
Yeah. Even more troublesome for novelty enjoyers of the revelation is that a huge chunk of 2023's playtime was spent on games that were at least 6 years or older. So we've got Fortnite, League of Legends, GTA 5, Minecraft, and Roblox, and that took up 27% of all playtime between those 6 games. It says, as Kotaku pointed out, only 8% of video game playtime was spent on new non-annual titles like Diablo 4 or Baldur's Gate 3. I wonder if Helldivers isn't included in that, because that seems pretty big.
It only has, I want to say, like 250 to 300,000 concurrent players most of the time.
Oh, that's interesting. I bet
Yeah.
Fortnite has like way more than that.
Probably several million at any given time.
Yeah, I know. Like there are people that don't play video games that I know that play Fortnite. It's just, I remember talking to somebody and they were like, "I'm playing League of Legends," And I was like, "Do you play any other games?" And they're like, "No, I'm working on my League of Legends career." I'm like, "I'm never gonna talk to you again." That's um, it's interesting here. It does say it sounds all damning on the surface, although I think it's probably worth noting that many of the players don't necessarily represent lost market for new single player titles and the like, since many of the games mentioned represent entire hobbies in themselves, like Roblox, Fortnite. It's a shock and slightly disappointing to see so many hands grabbing for the same plate of chips at the buffet, while more interesting offerings get left to grow cold on the periphery. And they're struggling to find an audience, causing publishers to become even more risk adverse in the process. That is a big thing, right? Like, you have
Yeah.
games like Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, and a lot of publishers are like, we want to release new and interesting games, but if we do that, we might go
If we
bankrupt.
do that, no one will buy it.
Yeah, and that's a big problem. Um,
And like I really think, and I'm definitely far from the only person who's been saying this. I think it's because big publishers, they always feel like they're in the boat of, well, people expect us to make games with like 50 plus $1 million budgets.
yeah,
And like particularly like the EAs and the Activision slash Xbox now. Uh the Xboxes of the world, people are expecting like 100 to $200 million budgets in their games. And like whenever you're expected to do that, at least in their minds, then you kind of have to make something that's safe.
yeah.
And I think that that is a failure of logic in general, and that really what publishers need to learn to accept is the idea of maybe making a game that only has a $1 million budget.
Well, and they do
And
that.
then
Like, there are some developers, um, that are making like old time boomer shooters,
yeah,
like that,
exactly.
and the budgets aren't crazy, and they make a good game that a certain niche we're gonna like, but they're like, we only expect 250 to 300,000 sales, and so our budget reflects that. And I know when I worked for Sony, my coworker was like, "Yeah, I think I heard the budget for this game is something outrageous, like $80 million," and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." Like,
Yeah.
it's a AAA game. Like, I'm surprised it's not higher, honestly. And uh, he was just shocked. He's like, "I've never worked for a place that had that high of a budget," and I was like, "I know, but that's what they do. They have giant budgets on these video games now. Like, you look at Star Wars: The Old Republic, they put like $500 million into that game,
Yeah.
and it's not that good.
No.
It's okay. It's
Like,
okay, but
yeah, it's fine. It probably would have done better as a single player experience, but,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping that they release a KOTOR game at some point in the future, but we'll see what happens with that.
they
Um,
gotta stop canceling them first.
well, there's been reports where somebody has said it's still alive. They're still working
Oh,
on it. And that wasn't a story that we were going to talk about, but apparently they're still working on it somehow. But yeah, you look at these games like GTA 5, Fortnite, Roblox, and these are just games that, like, I hate the live service model, but they've actually done the live service model to a point where they're able to get people in and keep them. And I think,
GTA 5 is the most fascinating form of that to me,
yeah, it's
because
so
like what are people still doing in that game?
uh GTA Online, it's still a thing, I guess. I
But
don't
that's what I
know.
mean, is like there's not that much content in that game other than like I guess if you're just grinding like a motherfucker, it's like that's all the game turns into at a certain point is like you either grind or you buy shark cards. And I guess there are just that many people considering it's the most profitable game ever. I guess
Yeah.
there are just people who log in and it's like, "Oh boy, it's Wednesday, time to pay $20."
Yeah,
Like, I don't
I had a friend who worked at Rockstar for a bit, and he was like, I hated the culture there. It's like all video game companies, unfortunately, have kind of that grinding culture, right? Where you're working 50, 60 hours a week. A lot of like often. Um, and then of course there's crunch time where you're working just every waking hour and then some, you're at work. But he said that like there was no downtime. Most game studios, at least when a game's starting or in the middle, like you work 40 or 50 hours a week. You don't work outrageous hours. But I guess Rockstar, you just work 70 hours a week every week. And if you're not working 70 hours a week, they think you're a slacker.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh man. And he's like, I had to get out of there. I had to go somewhere else. I'm taking less pay right now because I couldn't deal with that. And I was like, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also unfortunately has translated into some great games. You have GTA 5, you have what's that one? Red Dead Redemption 2. Like these games have done phenomenally well. Even though I think Red Dead Redemption's online fizzled out pretty quickly. I don't think anybody
Yeah,
cared
that
about that
was
so much.
there's definitely some degree of like one for them, one for me kind of
Yeah.
going on there, I think. Where because like Rockstar is not their own publisher, they're beholden to Take Two.
Yeah.
And I have thought for a while it does seem like Red Dead is kind of their passion project, and then GTA is the thing that they make to make Take Two money.
Yeah, that I mean,
'Cause there's
I'm sure Red Dead made them a lot of money, but not as
oh,
much money as
it
yeah.
did 100%. But yeah, it just fundamentally was never going to be anywhere near as successful
Yeah.
as GTA. It
Well, and
just
that
couldn't be.
yeah, and that happens in a lot of like movies, right? Like even Star Wars.
Right.
Um like George Lucas made American Graffiti, which apparently made a lot of money, and I've never seen that movie. Have you?
Nope.
Okay. Um and that did really well and got like was critically acclaimed. And so I think it was Fox, but I could be wrong. Whoever published Star Wars was like, yeah, George, you can go make your shitty little space opera movie, whatever. And they fudged that up because they let George Lucas have all the merchandise rights. So that's why George Lucas became a billionaire, was because he merchandised the shit out of Star Wars. And the people who made them, like who funded the movie, got like zero of it. It's great. Good for you, George Lucas. Anyway, that's our story. That's our stories for the day. We have lots of stuff that happened, and hopefully more actual stuff will happen next week because this week was kind of slow. There wasn't even any good like April Fool's stuff to talk about. Like there was nothing this year for April Fools.
I
Any.
I think that's been a trend, right?
Yeah, the
That
last few
like
years have kind of sucked.
yeah, I think it's just that people are kind of sick of April Fool's Day being the day where like a bunch of bullshit news articles come out. Like
Yeah.
no one's really having fun with it anymore.
I saw one like YouTube video where a guy was like, I got a job at WWE. And I was like, oh, it's April Fool's Day. Okay. He didn't get
Yeah.
a job at WWE. I always like the real articles that come out on April Fools that everyone thinks are
Yeah.
fake. Those are my favorite. But we didn't really see much of that this year either. So April Fool's not that great this year. Hopefully next year is better. But we will be back next week. I want to thank you for being here, Roa.
Yep, I was here.
And I've been your host, Nathan Reed. Spruth will be back next week. Goodbye.
Bye.